Hi, this is W0TM, also known as WOTM. W0TM are my ham radio call letters. Another video. You're looking at another illustrious view of my living room. Isn't that exciting? About as exciting as anything else I can show, so whatever. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. Too much pain. I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm unfortunately suffering from a disease that the CDC says is delusional parasitosis. They said the same thing about Lyme disease and HIV and other diseases, blowing it off, when in fact it was real, but it took many years of constant harangue, uh, to get them to tell the truth. I've got something called Morgellons, which is one step beyond Lyme disease, and I'm getting close, I think, to coming up with some ways to suppress it further so that the pain is not nearly as significant, and sores on my arms and legs and so forth get really turned down. But it also a lot of insomnia. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't sleep. I was just hurting too much. I said, I'll get up, I'll do a video. I got at least a dozen videos in mind of things to talk about. And those of you that subscribe to this channel know that it's scientific, not funny, don't tell jokes. Hopefully you pick up some information that is useful, learning. It's not a teaching channel, but you'll typically hear things here that you'll hear and see nowhere else. Name of this video, World War II, WW2, what if Germany had won? WW2, what if Germany had, well, let me rename it, Mandela, because it needs to be in there, Mandela Effect, World War II, WW2, what if Germany had won? It's, as many people have been doing, have been, not really researching, but just staying on top of Mandela Effect, trying to figure the darn thing out, and no one's really got it figured out, other than they keep blaming CERN, even though CERN, there are somewhere between a half a dozen and a dozen similar facilities like CERN scattered about the world. One of them, somebody hinted at, they said, well, there's one of them in a large state in the United States, but I can't tell you where the state is. Well, that kind of, tells it right there. It's in Texas. CERN originally was going to be racing around Austin, but they kind of tricked everybody. What else is new? Government. They voted and said, we don't have the money. We're not going to spend billions of dollars building a LHC, a collider, down here in Austin. So Switzerland and the European Union, the entire EU chipped in dollars, came up with billions, and built the LHC. And if you follow CERN, you know that it's underground, two countries, Switzerland and France, and circular. I think it's about 20 miles. I don't follow it that closely. It's either diameter or across or something. It's really big, and very expensive. Well, they went ahead and built. It might be smaller, but they went ahead and built something down in Austin, and some other countries as well. Russia's got one. China is, I think theirs is still under construction. They're supposedly building one that is just humongous. Leave it to the Chinese to decide to come up with, the biggest and best. They did the same thing with the HARP facilities. Everybody blames HARP for stuff, even though at last count, I've got a list here somewhere, there were 34 HARP type facilities scattered about the world, 3 of them in China, which they denied for years. We don't have a HARP facility here. Even when Google video, satellites and stuff going over, showing the darn facilities, they were still saying, we don't, well, they finally admitted it. Yeah, we've got some HARP facilities here and so forth. Do they use the same excuses that they're heating up plasma way up above to study the atmosphere and so on and so forth, while they're actually using it for MK Ultra, mind control, remote wireless mind control, and doing other bad, dastardly, things that they really shouldn't. I have no idea. I have no idea. There's just a lot of HARP facilities, and there are a half a dozen to a dozen LHC facilities. CERN in Switzerland, since they do the PR, they get blamed for everything. Are they involved with the Mandela Effect? I don't know. But I do know that this is Mandela Effect is an ongoing effect or activity, whatever you want to call it. I read recently a fellow was, he was writing a Sunday school paper to, teach his class about something or another out of the Bible. And he had his Bible open to a particular page. He was going to talk about, and he did talk about a particular part or page in the Bible. And as he was looking at that page, words actually changed, So there's been a big question mark about the Mandela Effect. I think the people that follow it have pretty well finally accepted, it's real, and but what's happened, things like Depend diapers, it's no longer Depends, it's Depend. And Bernstein Bears is now Bernstein, and Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader say different things, and box of chocolates, and you go on and on. Has anybody? I did a video the other day saying, everybody calm down. I think, because has anybody been harmed by this Mandela Effect? The answer is no. Has any physical damage been done by the Mandela Effect? As far as I know, no. Nothing has happened other than it's just a curious effect. Well, the next question has been, is this something of nature, or is it being done by mankind? Or, I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other about aliens and so on and so forth. you talk much about that and people will call you nutty. So I just try to stay away from that. I don't know, there's a billion, trillion, trillion, I don't know, lots of universes. And of all of those, to have life on only one planet, I consider to be next to impossible. Just the mathematics of it. But also, they're so far apart. How do they, how did one of them figure out that, that's a billion trillion light years away from us? How did they figure out that there's life on planet Earth? I don't know. If they did. Are they walking among us? They say there's 5 different alien species. The only bad ones are ones called grays. I read here. The other ones are all good guys. And we're supposedly coming up to the point where the United Nations or the Pope or somebody's going to come on and do a press release or, say, hey, I got something important to tell everybody. There's more than us that are here. There are also some aliens. And let me tell you about them. Well, is that true? I have no idea. And I'm just waiting like everyone else. Until then, I'm making no projections because I don't want to be called a nutcase. Not that I really care. But anyway, what I am wondering, and comes to mind, what if whoever, whatever, is doing all this, if it's one big, humongous quantum mechanics computer, which, by the way, quantum mechanics, Nikola Tesla, Einstein, everything back to Faraday, actually some of the ancient, or not philosophers, but scientists that date back to ancient times. I have even read into things like Velikovsky that goes back to before recorded history. I find all that stuff fascinating. It appears to me that there's been a total of 5 total civilizations, including one of them that was more advanced than we are right now, and included among the big island that was called Patagonia, that I think the name of it, that instead of different continents broken all apart, just one big landmass called Patagonia, that among all of that was Atlantis. And Atlantis supposedly has scientists and technology and so forth. They flew to the stars, they exceeded the speed of light, did all kinds of neat things that we are still thousands of years behind where they were back then. But something came along, a comet, a big flood, something, wiped everything out, left enough life here, or more likely, whatever was mankind put enough life forms on other planets to have, I'd call them lifeboats, which we should be doing right now, having life forms on Mars and Jupiter and other universes and so forth, so that if suddenly Nibiru or Planet X or whatever comes along, wipes us out, that life can come back again. Well, we're not doing any of that. Instead of that, we're wasting all of most of our resources on fighting each other and doing what mankind does best, The activity of mankind is war, and it always has been back through recorded history. Big question I've got is, what if whatever is behind all of this in a great big quantum mechanics computer, and let's say we're playing devil's advocate. Let's say we're a big hologram and there's a veil that we're behind and we can't see through it or past it, but it's there, and reality that we see is just what this computer is allowing us to visualize or think or see or whatever. What if the people from George Bush, George Soros, Prince Charles, all of these uppity up types that think they are so darn smart, when in fact most of these people are idiots. Reason being, I say, genetics say that intermarrying, cousins marrying cousins, back and forth like that, lowers the IQ level. Royalty for thousands of years has intermarried. All you need to do is look at Prince Charles and the others in the royal family of England, and you can figure that out pretty quick. They're all idiots. You look at, and I don't want to get in a big fight with Islam, but one of the things of Islam is that it is accepted procedure, it's normal, it's expected that you intermarry a close relative. Most marriages, number one, they're arranged in Islam. Number two, they are often like your first cousin or even your sister, or in a few cases your mother. Marriages, that's how Islam, more often than not, for instance, if you've got a harem of 30, 40 wives, it's a good chance most of them are already related to you, cousins and nieces and so on and so forth, or, that's just the way it is. Well, you do that a whole bunch of times, and that's the reason why the IQ of a typical someone of the Islamic faith, and I'm not making a hit on Islamic faith, so I don't want anybody throwing a pipe bomb in my house, but that's the reason why measured IQ of Islam tends to be lower than the average IQ of anybody in mankind. There's a reason for that, You do enough intermarrying, and that's what happens. You all know that. I didn't need to tell you that. But what if all of this that they're doing is leading up, they're kind of acclimating us with silly stuff, Bernstein Bears and Luke Skywalker and so on and so forth, that nobody really cares about to speak of. What if they're leading up to New World Order? They've got it all figured out, and they've got a new timeline already figured out that already has them in full control, with all of the worker bees already working and slaving, 95% of us already dead, just like the Georgia Guidestones show say, and so on and so forth, and they've got all this worked out, and it all comes from SS Nazis. It's well known that the SS Nazis had scientists and so forth far better, greater, smarter than the Allies, United States, England, so forth. while FDR was spending all of our money to get votes, SS Nazis were spending money on trying to do things like build UFOs and build nuclear weapons and so forth. If you go into World War II history, you'll find that in 1940, Hitler did so many stupid things. By all rights, Germany should have won World War II. There were at least a half a dozen occasions when he did something really stupid, and if he hadn't done it, he would have won the war. One of them was that in 1940, they had in an underground base on the northern coast of Germany, underneath a suburb where there was no military installations, well hidden, they had a major league scientific laboratory, nuclear building, working on an atomic bomb. And they had their Dr. Oppenheimer and so on and so forth. They were within a few months of producing the first nuclear weapon bomb in the world. And they were going to use it, supposedly take it in the middle of the Atlantic and explode it and say, well, if you want the next one, drop down on top of Buckingham Palace, just let us know. Otherwise, we want the world to surrender, and you're all going to be speaking German. As some of you know that have studied World War II history, Hitler had already picked out the regions of the world that he was going to be running. New York City was going to be the headquarters for North America, and they even had the buildings picked out. They really had things figured out. But what happened, the Battle of Stalingrad that was supposed to last a couple weeks and ended up going for a couple of years, and before Germany finally just gave up and left after losing huge numbers of soldiers. The Eastern commanders of Germany convinced Hitler that, gee, if we just had a little bit of extra money and resources, we could be in Moscow in 2 weeks. And that would be the end of World War II. We would take over Russia and sue for peace with England and the United States and basically take over both countries by lying to them. And Hitler looked in his budget. Back then, you had to pay everything in cash. There's no credit available for buying armaments. So he looked at it and said, well, the only way I can do this is to temporarily shut down the atomic nuclear research going on the north coast of Germany, and stupid, he went ahead and did that. He could have won World War II by the end of 1940, just after invading Poland, but he didn't do that. He shut down temporarily, thinking that, well, we're going to board it up. It is so well hidden, no one's ever going to find it. So if we need to, we'll just open it up again, get our atomic nuclear bomb going, and go that route. They took the Deutschmarks and used them to try to get into Moscow. And of course, they got stuck at Stalingrad, and Russia just, ground them up and shoot them up, and Germany did not have a good time. A couple years later, after finally giving up, Hitler said, okay, well, let's reopen the nuke facility. Well, by then, England, with enough intelligence, had discovered the nuclear facility deep underground in this suburb, small town, or town on the north coast of Germany, and they had gone and bombed the heck out of it. There was nothing but rubble, you know. Scientists, many of the nuclear scientists, the equipment, the everything, instead of dispersing it, which is a smart thing to do in anything that you do, they had it all in one place because they thought they could do it quickly and, have the nuclear bomb all set to go. Well, by the time we started up again, there was nothing left other than rubble. So, there he missed his chance to win World War II. I could give you 4 or 5 other examples, instances where by doing something really stupid, he missed the chance to win World War II. The same thing is true with Japan. Japan was also working on a nuke. With them, they were not ahead of us. They were about 3 months behind us. If we hadn't dropped the nukes on Japan, they would have been dropping the nukes on Honolulu 3 months later. Most people are not aware of that. They think, oh, isn't it terrible that we, dropped nuclear bombs on Japan. Well, if they hadn't have done it, if Truman hadn't have done it, Hirohito would have, I think it was, anyway, would have been dropping nuclear bombs on Hawaii and maybe even San Francisco, and they had the capability by then to bring in, to get transports all the way to North America. They could have bombed Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles. They could have taken the West Coast and just turned it into radioactive zone if they wanted to. But we got to them first and took out Japan, and that's how the war ended with Japan. But what if this Mandela Effect going on is quietly, kind of working us up, softening us up to, well, let's say we all of a sudden, I was thinking, what happens, let's just give a scenario. You suddenly, or you blink, and you open your eyes again, and everybody around you is talking German. What is this? And you turn to your very best friend in life, and you say, why is everybody talking German? And your very best friend has a shocked look on his face, grabs you, pulls you over in a corner, and says, I'm taking my life in my hands even saying this, but we've been friends since the age of 3. I haven't spoken English since 1970, when the law went through banning the speaking of English, and all English books were burned and so on and so forth. But we haven't been out of each other's sight for ever since we were kids. We work in the same ministry. I don't know what's wrong with you, but everyone's speaking German because we are part of Germany. We're the North American part of Germany. And I don't know what's wrong with you, but you better knock it off, because there are roving thought police, and if they heard me speaking English, or you, we'd probably either be dead or thrown into a work camp within hours and never see the light of day again. So I don't know what the heck is going on, and you're sitting there, standing there, what the heck is going on? Uh, a second ago, before I blinked, everyone, it was normal. Now I look around, I see all these Volkswagen cars. I see other cars I don't recognize. I hear some people speaking Japanese. I don't hear any English. The world looks different. There's different buildings going on. You know, it looks like everyone happens to be a worker bee. I see these people walking around wearing German uniforms. They seem to be in control, and people like me are, gophers, idiots, dirt under your feet. And, all this is happening in just, the blink of an eye. What it's, if this Mandela effect is working up to having something like that happen, that Germany won World War II, SS Nazis took over, they took over the world, along with Japan, unless they backstabbed one or the other, something like that, which they probably did. Um, and, so anyway, bottom line, what if this Mandela effect is ongoing? It appears to be ongoing. As I say, recently someone was reading their Bible and they watched words change right in front of them. So so this Mandela effect isn't something that just happened once and that was it. It's ongoing. So is this leading up to something really awful and terrible, and the people who are idiot or whoever they are running, I'm guessing, this gigantic quantum mechanics computer that has us all stuck behind the veil in a hologram, are leading us up to their timeline, which bypasses everything that this New World Order thing going on that we think they're working toward. They've already got it all figured out, and they know where they want to go, and they know where they want people to be, and they know who they want dead, and they got everything figured out. And all they are doing with this Mandela effect, is working us up to the point of, blinking your eyes, and all of a sudden you wake up to this world of theirs, and look out. That's not what you want to be, or where you want to be. Is that what's happening? Is that one of the, who knows? All kinds of things could have happened. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Khrushchev in 1962, maybe he did not back down, and ICBMs flew back and forth, and Russia got blown up, and part of the United States got, there are so many timelines. Einstein said there's an infinite number of timelines, there's an infinite number of, all kinds of stuff. Maybe he was right. He said there's no second ago, there's no second from now, there's just now. And now there's now. And now there's now. And now there's now. And that's it. Was he right? I have studied and dealt with quantum mechanics, Tesla, so forth, all my life. I still do work, self-employed, analytical research scientist. I know that sounds kind of, egghead, but whatever. I've always enjoyed techie stuff, and people that subscribe to my channel know that, and I hope you find the techie stuff that I do interesting. And by the way, let me take this camera and hold it up just for a second, and we're going to move it around. If you happen to, you see these two little white pieces of paper? Well, they're not paper. They are dead now, and they're about 10,000 times the size of what they normally are. You see some other little white dots. They rain on me constantly, and because of having Lyme disease, I am susceptible to something called Morgellons disease, which is painful. Oh, sorry. Looks like the camera went out of focus. I apologize for that. It might come back and look like it just went off totally. I hope it's still working. Let me see real quick if it is. Yep, still working. Okay, we're still on. It's just out of focus. So anyway, I don't want to keep going. That's enough. Just give it some thought. Are we working up toward something really bad and we're just being softened up? And did something happen, like just one of 1,000 things I can think of? What would happen if Germany had won World War II? It could have easily happened if Hitler hadn't have been so stupid and went ahead and proceeded making his own nuke. He could have had the world in his hand by 1941. He could have owned everything. It could have been his, but it wasn't. And he ended up losing the war. Is that what is going on? Are we going to blink and all of a sudden everyone around us is speaking German, and all of the books we see are written in German, and the cars are Volkswagens and so on and so forth? Maybe. If that's the case, this Mandela Effect is a lot more serious than we thought. And if it's ongoing and some much worse things are on the way, and it is maybe due to an LHC, either CERN in Switzerland or the one in Texas, or there's one down in Brazil, there's three, as I say, there's, Russia's got one, so on and so forth. If it's due to something like that, and some really bad people have a New World Order in mind and know what they want this timeline to be this certain way, and they want to be able to push the button and have it be that way, and they're softening us up to have it happen. Are we going to blink and all of a sudden be speaking German? I don't know. Maybe so. Just one more thing to think about on this Mandela Effect. This Mandela Effect is giving me more and more concern. I don't see anything good about it yet, and it appears to me that what's coming that has to do with it is not good. So keep that in mind, think about it, and put your comments below. Call me crazy. That's fine. I don't mind that at all. It happens all the time. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think we're going the wrong, if we're going toward, all hell breaking loose and a timeline that we really don't want. and that we're about to be, thrown back to the age of dinosaurs, World War II being won by Germany. I don't know. Just all kinds of things. Is that about to happen? If it is, not good. So with that, W0TM signing off. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you subscribing. I hope what I'm saying, my videos are of interest to you. They're certainly different. They're not funny. They're scientific and technical, and that's the way they're going to stay. So take care and see you on the next video. Bye-bye.